How's it going, everybody? This is Beanie, and welcome back, finally, to another all-time series video. I took a bit of a break just because I got really busy with real-life stuff, but as you guys know, I announced last week that I'm going full-time on YouTube. I've been streaming basically every day of the week, and I've decided to put a little bit more time in making videos as well. So I plan on continuing the all-time series basically every day. I might miss a day or two here or there, but today we're going to do the Marlins, tomorrow we're going to do the Braves, and that'll be the end of the NL East and the National League in general. And then we will continue on into the American League, and hopefully we can get this all-time series done by the middle of November, maybe the end of November. So yeah, with that being said, let's get into it. Okay, the Marlins are definitely an offensive-heavy team. Their pitching really leaves a lot to be desired. So let's start out with the starting pitchers. Your ace, the ace of this staff, is more than likely going to be the 85 overall Ricky Nolasco. He's the only pitcher on this team that is a gold or higher. It's really unfortunate that the Marlins lost Jose Fernandez, other than, you know, just a tragic life being lost. It also, you know, it also took away probably their most talented player. And that definitely hurt their organization in real life. And it hurts their organization when making this all-time list because they really don't have a great starting pitcher on this team. And Ricky Nolasco, I mean, he's a guy, you know, his per-nines really aren't all that great. He doesn't throw that hard. He's not a #1 guy, but for the Marlins, he is. And then behind him, you have Nathan Eovaldi, kind of a flamethrower with bad per-nines, but he does throw really hard, so that can certainly be a benefit to you. And then you got to go with the 80 overall Dan Straley, traded for this past offseason. You know, he was pretty good this year. He was good enough to get a silver. He's not bad, really good per-nines, but he just doesn't throw hard either. So, you know, I'm kind of skeptical of how effective he really would be. But, you know, I guess for a #3 on a lot of these teams, he wouldn't be that bad as a #3. So I can see him having some use. And then for the #4 spot, I had to go with Edinson Volquez. Personally, I think I like this guy more than any of the other guys on this list because he throws really hard and he has a sinker. It sucks that he doesn't have a slider, and it sucks that his per-nines aren't that good. But for a bronze pitcher, I think that he can be awfully effective. And then for the 5th and final spot in the rotation, I ended up going with the... where is he? Oh, there he is. Okay, I don't know how I kept missing him, but yeah, I went with the 75 overall Adam Conley. It gives you a lefty in the rotation, so that's pretty nice. You could definitely make an argument for Vince Worley or perhaps even Jose Urena, but I ended up going with Conley because I wanted to get the lefty in there. Not really all that great, but he is kind of a change of pace in this rotation. Okay, so grading this rotation was... I mean, I knew that I was going to give it a below-average grade. I mean, I gave the Nationals a 6.3 on their rotation, and it is 1,000 times better than this one. And really, even the good pitchers, the Evaldis and the Nolascos, really aren't all that great. So I don't feel comfortable with any of the pitchers in this rotation, although I do think versus some people, a couple of them could be semi-effective. So I ended up giving them a score of a 1.8. That's really low. And I don't know. Maybe my scoring is off a little bit, but I think a 1.8 is about right. You know, I mean, I have taken a while off, so I don't know. Maybe relative to other teams, they deserve like a 2.5 or something. But I'm going to go with a 1.8 just because I really don't like any of the starting pitchers on this team. And to be honest, the bullpen gets better, but not a lot better. Probably the closer of this bullpen is going to be the 88 overall Steve Cishek. And while I like this card, I don't think he's exactly the dominant bullpen arm that you would typically want. You know, he is kind of a change of pace guy, but I think he works better as like a middle reliever rather than a closer, just because you know, he's not like a strikeout pitcher. He's going to pitch to contact, try to generate weak contact, and I would rather have that in like the 6th inning than I would in the 9th inning, or whenever, you know, there are runners in scoring position or something like that. So, you know, he's pretty good, but I'm just not super thrilled with the prospect of having him at closer. But behind him, you have to go down to the 79 Kyle Barraclough, and this guy is awesome for a bronze. This is one of the best bronze relievers in the game, even though he's only a 2-pitch guy. His per nines are excellent among, you know, diamond relievers. He has better per nines than a lot of diamond relievers. His control is among the worst in the game, though, or his walk per nine is among the worst in the game. I mean, a 12 walk per nine, he is going to be very, very difficult to control. And don't let that 51 control fool you. Walk per nine is much, much more important than control. So he is going to be pretty tough to use his interface, but he does throw pretty hard. He has a good slider, and his per nines are very good. So I don't mind him being a setup guy for C-Check or something like that. And then beyond him, you have Junichi Tazawa. You know, he's okay. He's okay. Nothing really special. His per nines aren't that great, but his stuff is okay. Not terrible for a 76 overall. But then it starts to look a little bit bleaker. You do have this Brad Ziegler, who is a submarine pitcher, kind of a gimmick pitcher. But, you know, a lot of people find him to be effective. So I'm not going to dog Ziegler too much. And after him, though, you have the Brian Ellington, the 74 Brian Ellington. In my opinion, one of the better arms in this bullpen. His per nines are a lot better than some other arms, and his stuff is pretty good to go along with that. And he has a changeup, a curveball, and a fastball. I would like it if that curveball was a slider, but pickers, what is it? Pickers can't be beggars can't be choosers. There you go. And then they recently moved the 74 overall Wei-Yin Chen to the bullpen. Not super recently, but relatively recently. And this is going to be kind of your long reliever. He has that 86 stamina. His per nines aren't good at all, but he does have 5 different pitches that he can pitch from. He can locate them effectively. And his stuff isn't terrible. It's not great, but it's not terrible. So he's pretty nice to have in there. And then finally, you got to go with Dustin McGowan, another guy who I kind of dig. Kind of in the same vein as Brian Ellington, you know, good hit per nine, mediocre K per nine, good stuff. And this guy has a slider and a changeup to go along with 2 different fastballs. So I kind of dig this guy. I think he's one of the better lower tier bronzes in the game. So I think the bullpen is definitely improved over the rotation, but I'm reluctant to call it average because I've seen some pretty good bullpens while I've been doing this all-time series, and I just don't think that this one really stacks up to those. So I'm going to give it a better score, but not a great one. We're going to go with a 4.5. Okay, but now is where it gets good. Their lineup is really, really good. And I know at this point in the year it's not that tough to get a good lineup, but the Marlins really, really do come through. At catcher, starting out there, you have to go with JT Real Muto. Very, very good. One of the faster catchers in the game, which if you're interested in that, that's kind of a cool note. He has decent contact. His power isn't, you know, anything to write home about, but at catcher, you're just looking to get someone to fill a spot relatively effectively in an exercise like this, and I think that JT Real Muto definitely does that job. And then at first base, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that you got to go with a 90 overall Justin Bour. He's a lefty that hits both sides of the plate very effectively. Lots of power, very good contact. His vision is a little lower, but that's okay. Not really that big of a deal. And at first base, we really don't care about defense all that much. But I guess it is important to note that his defense isn't really all that great. But he's a great hitter. He's going to be potentially a middle-of-the-order guy for you. And then moving on to second base, you have the 90 overall D. Gordon. And maybe arguably the best leadoff hitter in the game. Tons of speed, great stealing, super high contact, very high vision, good defense. I mean, if you're looking for a guy to get on base and steal bases, D. Gordon is the guy from you. Basically, every time he gets on base, it's an automatic double. And if you're feeling frisky, a lot of times it's an automatic triple. So very, very nice to have at second base. At third base, you're going to have just your right-handed monster. A lot of people may be waiting for Giancarlo Stanton to be that right-handed monster, but it is not going to be. It is going to be the 98 overall Miguel Cabrera, and he is just an absolute stud. 98-85 from the right side, 95-91 from the left side, 73 vision. Just, at third base, you want to get a guy who is going to be an impact bat, and I think that this guy, covers all of those bases, and his defense isn't awful. It's definitely not great, but it's not awful. He is a little bit on the slower side, so that could be an issue, stretching singles and stuff, singles into doubles and stuff like that. But for the most part, he's going to be absolutely great. And then at shortstop, I went with the 88 overall Hanley Ramirez. To me, it was kind of a no-brainer. You get another 90-plus speed guy with good stealing on your team. I would probably bat this guy in the 2-hole, bat D. Gordon in the 1-hole, and then come with the power bats behind them so they can get on base and kind of create havoc on base, and then those guys can come in and drive them in. So I really like the dynamic of this team. And I think Hanley Ramirez fits it really well. Plus, against left-handed pitchers, he has a lot of pop. I mean, 87, 86 is very, very effective against left-handed starters. And against righties, he's not going to have as much pop, but he does have really good contact. So, or not really good contact. He has okay contact. So, yeah, I think he's a very effective shortstop right here. But then moving on to the outfield, your big left-handed power bat, aside from Justin Bour, really you have two. I think this one's better, is the 97 overall Cliff Floyd. And he also has some speed, 73 speed to go along with it. 90-88 versus righties, 86-89 versus lefties. Just an absolute stud. You can get him in the ticket counter relatively cheaply. So yeah, 97 overall Cliff Floyd is an absolute monster. Center field, this was a little tricky. I thought about going with Ozuna because offensively he's a lot better, but I ended up going with Yelich because I still really like Yelich's offense. I think he's a very good hitter. Maybe not as good as Ozuna, but still pretty darn good. And I'm talking about in this game, not in real life, of course. But defensively, he is head and shoulders above Marcell Ozuna. And he has a little bit of speed to go along with it, too. So yeah, I really like having Christian Yelich in center field for the defense and, pretty good hitting. He would probably hit towards the bottom of the lineup, though. And then, obviously, in right field, you have got to go with a 93 overall Giancarlo Stanton. I looked at the 91 Stanton, who against righties, his PCI is a little bigger and stuff like that. And he also has a little bit more power, but I ended up going with a 93 overall, basically because he is like a little bit faster, and I think that would help him a little on defense. And he's better against lefties, I guess. I don't know. It was pretty close picking between both of them, but really I just kind of looked at the overall, and I ended up leaning towards the 93 Giancarlo Stanton. And, yeah, obviously he's going to be a huge power threat. In this lineup, I would think about hitting him somewhere like 5th, maybe preferably behind a left-handed bat like Justin Bour or Cliff Floyd, so that you could protect them in the lineup. And, if they brought in a lefty to face Floyd, they'd have to go through Stanton, who can crush lefties. So that's kind of how I would construct the lineup. But now let's go and look at the bench. On the bench, I left Marcell Ozuna off of the starting lineup, so you have to put him on the bench, and he is a terrific hitting option off the bench. And probably would be like a platoon with Christian Yelich, but you could always switch those guys around, put this guy in the starting lineup and Yelich on the bench. Doesn't really matter, but yeah, I really like having this guy's bat on the bench, particularly because we do have several lefties in the lineup that I would like to kind of, protect with a righty hitter on the bench. And after Ozuna, got to go with the 81 overall Chris Coghlan. I've always kind of liked this card. He always has a big PCI, and he always seems to have more power than 54 power versus righties would suggest. And after that, the bench really isn't all that great, though. You have Martin Prado, who hits lefties really effectively, but that's about it. Then you have a left-handed power bat in Logan Morrison that can really, come in, and he's going to strike out a lot. He's not going to make solid contact all the time, but when he does against righties, that ball is going to go a long way. So that's pretty nice to have. And then we had to get a backup catcher. And for backup catcher, we ended up going with A.J. Ellis, who is pretty awful. I guess he is just terrible against lefties. He's not just like downright awful, but against righties, he's downright awful. Does have really good plate discipline, though, if that's something you care about. And defensively, he's not that bad. But yeah, that is the bench. And to be honest, I kind of like this lineup. I think that that it's one of the better ones that I've graded recently. I think that it has a lot of balance. It has, how many lefties does it have? 1, 2, 3, 4. Has 4 lefties. It has 4 righties. You know, a very balanced lineup. You have platoons for those lefties, at least a few of them. It has a good mix of speed and defense and power. I just think overall it's a very, very balanced lineup. So I ended up grading this lineup out at a 7.9, which is definitely much improved over their rotation and their bullpen. So when you add all of those scores up, you end up getting a score for the Marlins of a 14.2, which ends up putting them in third place, just ahead of the Phillies, who scored a 14.0. And right now the Nationals are leading the division with a score of 22.6, but the Mets are right behind them with a 21.3. And the last chance to dethrone the Nationals is going to be the Atlanta Braves. And fair warning, I am a huge Braves fan, so tomorrow's video could totally be biased, so just be on the lookout for that. But guys, I'm not going to have a morning stream today. I planned on it, but I kind of woke up late, so I need to upload this video and get it out, and then I'm gonna do a stream later on in the afternoon, probably around 3 o'clock or so. So be on the lookout for that. I don't know the exact time. I'm just gonna say 3-ish, but it could be anywhere from 2 to 4. I could go earlier, I could go late. I'll tweet it out. I'll let you know. Thanks for coming and watching the video, guys. I really appreciate it. I will see you guys in the stream, but until then, peace.